Hey, everybody. All right. So this is part 2 of the conversation with Chris Brown, the owner and founder of Rescon Basements. I think that this is probably my most favorite part of this conversation and part of the reason why we separated it into 2. So if you didn't catch part 1, make sure you go back and take a listen. This conversation that you're about to listen to is probably one of the reasons why I enjoy Chris as much as I do. His acumen in business well exceeds the construction industry. However, you're going to be able to catch a glimpse of he and I having a conversation about the economics of construction on a macro level and a micro level, how it has also mimicked the medical field, and how our education system is serving and not serving our country right now. Talks about his kids and educating 5 kids, how it's manifesting itself in real world, and some of the other pieces that I think you get in the experience of being a business owner. So again, Chris has become more than just a colleague of mine. He's a friend. I enjoy his family and his wife. So you're going to get a glimpse of a really great conversation that we've had. And I hope that if you aren't in the construction industry, you find relationships in your world that are similar to ones like this, where you can have great conversation and learn at the same time. Chris's contact information is at the end. Make sure you follow him on Instagram, connect with him on LinkedIn, and learn from people who can say things like they've waterproofed 10,000 basements, that they've been in business for 30 years, and that they're interested in helping the next generation. We hope you take just a little bit of time to breathe life in, and thanks for being a part of the Oxygen community. Enjoy the podcast.
What is something that, everybody has their uniqueness, and everybody has their one thing that makes them successful. What do you think is something about you people don't know that would surprise them?
People don't know.
Yeah. Pull back the curtain. What's something that, you think would surprise people about you?
I would say I'm more sensitive than people think I am. Most people think I'm pretty hard ass, kind of hard to approach. I've been told more than once I'm intimidating, and I think a lot of that just has to do with because I have a lot of confidence in who I am as a person, but I'm extremely sensitive. I'm very let's put it this way. I cry on a regular basis watching silly movies, and
Yeah.
my kids can tell you about this movie, what's it called? Inside Out. It's a kid's movie. First time I saw it, I was inconsolable. It was ridiculous.
I love that.
I guess I'm more sensitive than people probably think, and I think part of it is in business and in life that you also have to be a little bit, guarded and tough, because there are people who will try to push you around or take advantage of you, and so there's a part of it that is that, and there's a part that's part of me that's not that.
What do you think? I think that that's an asset, but I do think that there's a lot of people that keep that under wraps. I think it's what allows you to be receptive to what's happening around you and make you agile. But I do think that you do have a tendency in business to shield it, because it's a very almost taboo concept. What do you think will keep your industry stable in the long run? The construction industry, I think, is one of those, from my experience and what I have spent focused in the construction industry, it is one of the more susceptible industries to the economy, surplus, anything that shakes up any kind of politics, anything that is unstable. The construction industry gets the brunt of it. What do you think is necessary to keep your industry stable in the long run?
So let me ask a clarifying question. When you say my industry, you
Construction.
mean construction overall? Because, within construction, there are many specialty.
Yeah, so I will let you answer it on a macro and a micro level. On the macro level is construction as a whole, and then in your micro version of what you guys are specifically doing, is that answer any different? And if so, what is it?
So on a macro level, what will keep construction industry healthy is that's tough because it is very sensitive to economic conditions, borrowing and how much capital costs definitely impacts, how much construction is going on at any given time, because these projects are all funded with large amounts of debt usually. So I think the economy is always going to control the macro construction market to a certain degree, and there's not much anybody can do about that. Unfortunately, I think focusing on how we maintain, continuing down that macro path, focusing on how we maintain our infrastructure and what we do have out there is going to be a big part of the future. We can't just go around tearing down everything we built and rebuilding it. I mean, that's expensive. And it's not necessarily expensive to build new stuff as it is the cost of tearing stuff down and getting rid of it and disposing of it. It's just, there's so much debris out there in the world. So to tear stuff down and just throw it away seems like such a mistake, in my opinion. And
on so many levels, many.
Yeah. So keeping stuff maintained and functional, and how to repurpose things, and how to, revitalize neighborhoods, and those types of projects, I think are tremendously important and valuable to the macro construction landscape, versus just continuing to tear down trees and build major developments. Like I don't know. I think there's a lot of changes that can be made in that landscape. In regards to our industry in particular, in waterproofing foundation repair, I think it's an industry that not many people pay attention to. I'm often surprised at how little homeowners and property managers and even facility managers are aware of how important it is to maintain a solid, dry foundation below grade environment, and the impacts it has on the structure. Whereas, boy, if your roof even leaks 1 minute, you're out there getting a roofing contractor in there to put a new roof on your house. Like, it just amazes me. Like, that's, if the water's dripping on your head, you're taking care of it. But if it's getting your feet wet, whatever.
I got to tell you. So first of all, I'm going to say that the answers that you just gave me are not what I thought you were going to say, which I really like. Second of all, I have learned so much about the safety and foundation of homes in general. And I am not new to the construction industry. By no means do I build houses, but I am not new to the construction industry. And I was trained in the construction industry by some pretty heavy hitters. Like, they are not slouches. But what is not talked about, and what I have learned over the course of, probably over a year from you and your staff, about the safety of your home and the need for your home to be safe, even if it's not finished, even if it's not, is, just earth shattering to me. I think that you are so accurate in the lack of knowledge that people have about the importance of a healthy basement.
Yeah. And so it's a struggle trying to educate, a lot of people about how important this is.
So how do you do that? Like, how do you make that a thing that is equally important to your roof?
Trying to build awareness and help people understand. And it takes the whole industry, not just us. It takes the entire industry and the EPA and associations and other organizations to help build awareness around how important it is to maintain I think it goes without saying, maintaining a solid foundation for your home is pretty common sense. I mean, if your foundation looks like it's falling down, you might want to do something about that.
True. Yeah. Very, very true. Very true.
But when it comes to leaks and water and soil gases, there's less awareness associated with that. And one of the things I always say, the biggest reason why is because you shut that basement door, out of sight, out of mind. I get it. I mean, we're homeowners. We don't have endless amounts of money to just throw at home improvement project. And the basement is probably the least sexy of those projects. At least if I get a new roof, I can show everyone in the neighborhood, hey, look, I got a new roof. Like, you put in an interior drainage system or a sump pump system, no one's seeing that. No one cares.
It is kind of interesting, the amount of home events that we've all been kind of forced into when we all brought our kids home for school and our jobs home.
Yeah. Yes. It's definitely made the home environment, it moved it up on the list of importance in terms of making it a better place when you're spending much more time there.
So what I thought you were going to say to me about your industry was skilled trades.
Well, we could do a whole podcast on the lack of skilled trades and how decimated the construction industry has become because of, I don't want to blame academia because it sounds like I have a, axe to grind against colleges, which I kind of do, but I'm not going to go there.
Separate podcast.
However, our education system has not done a very good job promoting and guiding young people into skilled trades, blue collar workers that this country desperately needs. And I don't know how we're going to maintain our infrastructure with the lack of skilled tradespeople we currently have. Like, the infrastructure of this country grows and grows and grows. I mean, my industry is one little microcosm of that bigger picture. But the tradespeople and skilled tradespeople we have to pull from, that pool continues to shrink. So you've got this big problem that's just getting bigger and bigger, that I'm not seeing where anyone's working on it. There are glimpses here and there, little itty bitty things here and there. I've thought about that would be a great place to like go and take up the mantle for a nonprofit. It's just totally focus on that side of this problem. But until our education system and academia deems it important, this problem's only going to get worse. And
is that problem, chicken and egg to the infrastructure problem, or is the trade issue less than?
I want to make sure I'm getting your question right. Can you say that
So
again?
is the infrastructure problem
Yeah.
And the skilled trade or lack thereof problem, a chicken and egg, like you can't take the infrastructure down or rebuild it without trades? Or is the lack of skilled trades still less than how we maintain and rebuild and take down infrastructure? Like where is the imbalance? Because to me, you can't have without the other, you know?
So I think, well, this is just me speaking from my own kind of opinion on this matter.
Yeah.
The infrastructure continues to build and grow. I mean, we continue to build out this country and the infrastructure continues to expand. And the people that we have available to fix that infrastructure or even build it in general continues to shrink to as a percentage. So it's not so much that we can't continue to build and fix it. It's just going to take longer to get to it. So when you go to hire a contractor to fix anything on your house, your wait time could be a year or two because the waiting list is so long due to the fact that the pool of people available to do the work is so small. You saw it in healthcare with the pandemic when there was no healthcare workers to take care of people, or the amount of people that had to be taken care of completely outbalanced the workers that were available. The wait times for anything and everything just went through the roof. That same thing is happening right now. I'm sure in time it'll fix itself and the imbalance, either infrastructure repairs and new construction will drop down. I mean, that's how capitalism works. One thing is supply and demand,
Yep.
one side will drop and the other side will grow again and it'll balance out at some point. But I don't believe it ever balances. It'll find its equilibrium on its own, but I don't know if that equilibrium is ever going to get fixed until the education system gets on board with helping to fix the problem.
Yeah.
And I don't see that. I don't see it anywhere. I've sent, multiple kids through high school, and the last one's graduating next month.
Congratulations.
And the whole focus is on where you're going to college.
Yeah.
Where are you going to college? It's luckily I've got, one of my 5 has decided that she is not going to college yet. She is pursuing cosmetology and taking a different path. In our house, the from a parenting standpoint, it's always been, if what you are planning on doing requires a degree, then you need to go get a degree. If it doesn't require a degree, then I guess it's time to figure out what you want to do in the world. And take your time. Just go do stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is a hard realization when we talk about really what we're asking of the young people that are coming into the workforce, right? I think that it's a tough discussion to have. And I think it's ironic at best when you're asking for successful people like yourself and a lot of other owners of construction companies to ask you to pay the bill for educations and degrees that, your industry is struggling, and it is so incredibly hard to find that balance. I would call it the true up. And people don't consider the amount of locations that our economy relies on that needs that true up. It's expensive to buy a house right now. It's expensive to get repairs done right now. It's expensive to put gas in your car right now because this kind of instability that we're all experiencing. And when you really kind of get back to the root cause, we do a lot of that back here at Oxygen, the root cause of it really might be, I'm going to say simple, not easy, but simply how and when we educate our kids when they come out of high school.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of legacy systems in our society that are very slow to catching to being with where we're at
Yeah. Yeah.
for many different reasons. And I'm not, I couldn't even begin to try to fix them, but I do know that legacy systems like education, like building departments, state
Mhm.
government, federal government, they move slow,
Yeah.
slow, and they're way behind. And as tech in the world of business and commerce, and even society and community is on steroids, growing at changing at 10x levels as compared to legacy systems, the gap just gets bigger and bigger. And I can appreciate the nostalgia of legacy systems. It's not going to serve us well in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point. Great point. Okay, so let's ask you a couple of fun questions now that we've like dove into all of the information, right? Welcome to the Oxygen Podcast. Okay, so what scares you to say out loud?
What scares me to say out loud?
Mhm.
These are tough questions because I don't like to ever, as you know, I don't
do.
ever like to make shit up.
That's why we're excited to have you today.
So I think one of the biggest things that scares me, if I was to say it out loud, would actually be expanding my businesses to a point where we were on some national level and doing what I love to do at scale. That scares the crap out of me. Like,
yeah. That's amazing. Have you ever said that out loud?
Not really. I mean, I don't, because I don't like to talk about things that I don't know if I'd ever be willing to. Like, it scares the shit out of me. There are lots of pieces of it. I've never had to raise money. I've never had to, try to go out there and network and sell. Like, I'm an introvert, so it's very difficult for me to put myself out there that way.
Okay, I love that. All right, tell us what you're reading right now.
I'm reading or listening to. I don't read. I don't have time to. I'm a slow reader. I don't have time to read, so I listen to audiobooks.
Although you do know how, we should probably preface. We know you do know how.
Well, maybe that's one of the things I didn't want to share today. But.
I will attest. You do know how.
Yes. So I am listening to a book called Creative Confidence. It was a book that was recommended just this past weekend by my father.
Okay, I love that. We'll put that down in the show notes. All right. So what is an underrated skill that you think should be taught in schools? So I will tell you what mine is, because a lot of people, A, need a second, and B, they're not sure what I'm talking about. But I think kids should be taught to read a tape measure. Apparently I can't talk. So I even learned to read a micrometer when I was a kid. I was drug out into the garage and taught to read a micrometer, which a lot of people don't even know what a micrometer is. But how to read a tape measure. What do you think is something that is an underrated skill that kids just like? It's not something that they're taught these days. What is something that you think should be thrown out there? And by the way, if you don't know what a micrometer is, if you message me, I will send you a picture and tell you what it is.
I know what a micrometer is.
Not you, everybody else. Or you could Google it, be resourceful and Google it. There's tons of pictures of what a micrometer is.
I like the tape measure one. The tape measure one's a good one. I think there's a lot of household maintenance things that certainly, I mean, I don't know that anyone knows how to unclog a toilet. That's
usually a necessity at some point in your life. I don't know. The first time I moved my daughter away, she called in crisis because she didn't have a plunger. So I mean, maybe that was my
Mhm.
fault. I don't know.
Um, typing, like maybe not. I don't know. Like so, I really we had our granddaughter over recently, and she's in third grade. We were asking what she's learning in school. This is She's learning cursive.
Really? I
Yeah.
didn't think that they taught that anymore.
No, they do.
Oh,
This is my point.
okay.
Why?
Oh,
Why? Why are we teaching cursive?
well, I
Like,
think there was a period of time, Chris, that they didn't. I don't think my
good.
children write cursive. I had to teach them how to get a signature.
You aren't going to need signatures anymore. You're going to need your thumbprint and your face. Like it's not going to be necessary. So I really believe teaching skills that apply to your everyday life, like replacing old, outdated curriculums with something new and fresh and that is relatable to what we all need. Like I watch my kids text without looking at the keypad. Yeah, I don't know. Teach that. Like I don't. How do you do that?
We're aging ourselves drastically in this
But even
conversation.
so, I mean, I think even typing, you could say, well, soon it's just going to be all
Yeah.
voice to print,
Yeah.
and that's going to change as well. So I think household maintenance skills. So if your toilet gets clogged, or know how to change the batteries in your fire
Protector.
alarm,
Yeah.
know what a CO2 alarm is, things that keep you safe in life, like in your home is what comes to mind. And
Yeah.
then personal finances, obviously, I think teaching people how to invest properly would be helpful, or how to understand money better. Like, how do they spend no time on money? They spend no time on money. They spend time on accounting, which
Right.
we all love. Makes no
Yeah.
sense to anyone.
I love that so much. All right. What's one question that you have for me?
What what made you want to do this for a living, or just as a you're obviously passionate about it. What is it that made you passionate about it?
So the short answer to that is I was doing a version of this for another coaching firm that I very quickly discovered didn't have the business experience that I had. And rather than them taking credit for me as a good hire, they took it as a personal offense that customers wanted my business experience as guidance. Because we, as business owners, I think we all understand there is a level of failure that comes with that, and that is our greatest teacher. And I had taken so many shots for having been an owner and people wanting that advice or that experience that I finally said, I don't need to be in a place where I'm not wanted for my experience. Like, you can't take someone's experience for them, good or bad. And so I found a way to move around, the non-solicit, non-compete, non-disclosure. I'm resourceful. And so we started Oxygen as a body language facility because I knew that how people presented themselves physically was so incredibly important. Even, the crazy negotiation skills where like, don't sit there with your arms crossed and, stuff like that. And I was at a point in my life where it was more important to me to stay at home with my kids and have the flexibility to go to hockey games and show cows with my daughter and all of that. So I was willing to give up the crazy, insane paycheck and know that I was leaving the scrutiny for something I paid dearly for, to have owned businesses. So I did. I pretty much walked in one day and said, "Here's my 2 weeks." And they were so filled with ego over the fact that not only was I a woman, but I had more chops than they did, that they didn't even want me to live out my 2 weeks. And it was enough validity for me that I was like, "Bye, Felicia." And so I started Oxygen, but with the equestrian start that we had. And really before the pandemic. So we moved from the full on equestrian part of Oxygen January 4th of 2020. And then the pandemic fully shut down the world in March. So I had made this pivot to a virtual training center prior to knowing that the world was about to require virtual everything. So yeah, I just really believe that coaches who presented themselves with business experience and their only business experience was being a coach were kind of frauds. And that didn't sit right with me. Like, if I give you a piece of advice, it's because I probably was there and learned a ton of lessons on my way. And that was just kind of something that I felt was necessary. So that probably sits really well with some people and not real well with coaches that don't hold that model. The other thing that I think is really interesting, or that I hold a lot of pride in, is when we coach a business, we want to help you with where you're at. Like, for me to say to someone, your business is successful and that's how you can come to work with Oxygen. But by the way, you need to forget all that now. Like, you're doing it my way now. It would be kind of like, that'd be a little shoddy. So we work really hard to just bring tools to companies that help you get further, not do what I say, right? That would be like old school, and that doesn't sit right with me either. But we're not a franchise, so we have the ability to do that.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that.
I mean, I don't know if this is how you feel or not, wink, wink, but a lot of entrepreneurs don't like to be told what to do.
No, come on.
So it's hard to say to someone who, like you made reference to this earlier, you are very empathetic. You present yourself with a hardened exterior because it's a survival mechanism in business. But there's also a lot to be said that you paid a pretty significant price to get 30 years into this industry. So, you have pride. I always tell people, like, your business is like your appendage, right? Like, you've spent more time with it sometimes than you have your spouse, your kids. It's outlived marriages in a lot of cases. So you kind of like that thing. It's not my place to tell you to, screw it up. It's my job to say, hey, let's look at it from an objective point of view, or let's see if we can accent it or adjust it here or there. And I'm not always the popular opinion. So that's hard. You got to kind of like me.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Yeah. All right. So this is awesome. I love all of these things. Hopefully, if you're running a business and you are stuck in a moment, some of this advice resonated with you. Chris, tell this community where they can find some information about you and or ResCon.
So you can find out, best place to find out about me is probably on LinkedIn. Just look for Christopher Brown. What else? I don't know my LinkedIn profile, but you can also, if you want to find us very easy, ybwet.com. So WHY, the letter B, then wet.com. So, because why be wet when your basement can be dry?
I love this so much. I love that whole tagline. Okay, amazing. Follow all of them on Instagram because his marketing tactics are amazing and a great thing to follow as well. All right, well, we remind everybody at the end of every podcast to take just a little bit of time to breathe life in, and we hope you all will follow us on our next podcast. Have a great day, everybody.